Thinking. That's the problem. Thinking. Thinking itself is the problem. Thinking. Thinking thoughts which are judgmental and full of condemnation, filling all of our minds like vortexes of madness. I woke up today thinking about judgment and how it rules our lives and how there's no way around it no matter what. I mean, if you're going to do a whole bunch of stuff, people are going to judge you. There's going to be negative thoughts in their head about what you're doing. There's going to be negative thoughts in your own head about what you're doing. But think of the alternative, not doing anything at all. That's the worst. Then you're really, maybe there'll be less negative thoughts in the outside world in that way because you're sort of quieter or something. Although there'll still be those people judging you. Of course, you're not doing anything. What are you doing? Nothing. And then the ones in your own head are going to be way, way worse at that point. Wow, you have this purpose gnawing on you, this sense of purpose, and you're not doing anything to fulfill it. You're going to start. You got ideas to start. You just need to get out, get over procrastination, get over this, that, and the other thing. This, that, and the other thing really amount to judgment springing from fear. Fear is, what is it? Judgment is the right hand of fear, holding a weird sword. And, if we really look at like, where does judgment come from? We could say our thoughts, it comes from me, but is it really coming from us? Where do thoughts come from? So there are dark forces in this world. You can call it the devil, spirit, there's spiritual forces. We're a playground for spiritual forces. And the dark forces are invested in you being stuck, not able to do what you want to do, not able to bring forth what you want to bring forth, because then you go adrift. You begin drifting, and you're much easier fodder for negative forces to increase and sort of butterfly within. Addictions become par for the course, and depression, and more self-condemnation. So the very forces that are pushing you to, or causing resistance towards your dreams are then going to chastise you for listening to them. It's like a good cop, bad cop, both evil cops within. So you can't win. You can't ever escape judgment, no matter what you do. Judgment, I wrote some stuff about it this morning. It goes like this. Judgment, the motivation destroyer. Condemnation is the killjoy. We judge ourselves severely. We judge others almost as harshly. But strictly speaking, who's really doing the judging? Is it really ourselves, or is it thoughts? It's thoughts. And where are those thoughts coming from? Demonic principalities in the spirit realm, fractured childhoods and overbearing parents. We claim the thoughts as our own. They are, after all, in our heads. So someone has to claim them, or do they? More helpful, I think, is to recognize that thoughts arise like clouds from sources unknown. And because they assume our internal voices, they seem to be ours, but in reality, they are shrapnel on the battlefield of a spiritual war. So, when you sort of really break judgment down and you start really analyzing what it is, and the fact that there's no escape from it, I think this is really helpful towards getting us up off our behinds and towards action and activity, pursuing our purpose, pursuing our dreams, because there's no escaping it. Most people are falling victim to it. It's the rare ones that consistently work towards their dreams. And so, we can overcome that by the power of our awareness. by observing our thoughts and realizing we are not them, they are not us. People having similar demonic principalities infest them. Same thing, really. The judgment of others, I mean, you know, when you think about your goals or your dreams, you know, especially if you haven't pursued anything towards them at all, you're not going to be good at it. You're gonna fail. Your failure is the price of admission, is the cover charge to the sort of domain of your dreams. Do a thought experiment. Imagine a life where judgment doesn't exist, where there is no negative judgment, and what would you be like if judgment wasn't a factor at all? We would probably all be like playgrounds or like children on the playgrounds of our dreams, just experimenting, trying stuff. Oh, look at this. Oh, that sucked, actually. I'm working. You get it. You're doing it too. Yeah, no, I know. I suck right now, but I'm going towards something. It would just be like obvious. It's like no one's going to be an expert right away. So it would just be like, oh yeah, we're all messing around. You know, it's like when you play, like if you're not a real chess player and you play chess against a friend or something and you both suck. It's like no one really cares unless you're a goofball who wins. In that case, it's like, whatever, we both suck, we're just messing around. It's kind of like that, like, you know, like go towards your dreams like that. Be like, yeah, of course it's ropey, I'm just starting here. It's going to take probably years before I'm amazing at this. But I want to be amazing at this. Something is urging me within to be amazing at this. Something is urging me within that no one else out there can see, that is telling me that this is my purpose. I keep visualizing that I want to do something in this direction. That urging is what I believe God telling you what his purpose for you is here. Or again, if you're uncomfortable with spiritual references, what your higher self is telling you. Well, I guess higher self is spiritual too. Come on, there is a higher self and a lower self, and there is a spiritual realm. Okay, maybe, no debate, but yeah, I mean, I think through the power of observation, we can overcome judgment. We can reveal judgment as an imposter. Judgment is a liar. Those demonic forces are liars. You can it doesn't take too much investigative power to really uncover that. They're always there, whether you're doing something, especially when you're doing nothing, but then when you start doing something, they're judging everything you do. They're saying, people are going to make fun of you, and people might make fun of you. This unfortunately isn't a world void of judgment, and people mostly are stuck. And people really can only give you what they give themselves. So the people giving themselves the power to express themselves and to overcome judgment and condemnation are the only ones that are going to tell you what I'm telling you, because I'm giving myself that, I'm doing this. I'm not that great at making videos. This is like a goal I have, to make videos. I feel like I love talking about this subject. I love talking about uncovering inspirational blocks. I don't know why. I'm just urged to do it. I mean, I have a whole music career. I also paint. I could just focus on that. It'd be fine. But I have a calling, a later calling to push in this direction. So I'm making videos. If you look at my videos, there's tons of just experiments and me overdoing it or underdoing it or all of it, but whatever. And this is another one of those. And it's like, good. Eventually I'll get good at this. Maybe this is good. Who knows? I'm not judging it. You might be. And it doesn't affect me, But I do know this. I do know that because I've also, the music goals I've set, I got to them young. I got a record deal when I was young. I made records. And so some of that beginning growing pains kind of just got swallowed by the vigor of youth, you could almost say. Although there was tons of fear then too. You kind of forget in the years. But yeah, but you know, callings keep happening when you're open to them. And in this calling, I've gone back and forth between periods of going back into drifting and sort of letting this go, and it doesn't feel good because I want to pursue it. And I'm assuming we're all relatively similar in makeup, you know. So I think most of us have this urge towards a purpose that nothing feels worse than not pursuing it, you know. Doing a sort of doing your best, trying to do something, overcoming judgment and fear feels really good. You wake up inspired. You wake up wanting to get after it. You don't, and you are so much less vulnerable to the forces of evil. You're so much less vulnerable to voices of depression and fear and worry and anxiety. And that's the point. Because that's the motivation of whatever those judgmental entities, both within and without, really is. That's what observation tells us. Those voices just want to take you over. And they can only do that when you're really vulnerable. And you're really vulnerable when you're in a tailspin of fear and apathy and depression, which leads to addiction, which leads to behaviors that are regrettable, which leads to more shame and fear. It spirals in a negative direction. But the good news is, if you start overcoming, you start practicing observation, you do your spiritual practices, your physical practices to keep the fighting spirit up, that positive momentum builds as well. So yeah, I was just editing what I wrote earlier. I didn't really read it during that video, but I forgot about one of the most important points. So let me make it now. Bob Dylan, there's a new movie for you youngsters out there. There's a Bob Dylan movie, so you might know who Bob Dylan is now. Again, I don't know what people know or don't know, but you know, he's one of the greatest songwriters of all time, right? And so, and in the movie, actually, the new movie, what's it called? I forget, but Timothy Chalamet stars in it. Anyway, in that movie, they go over his transition from folk acoustic into electric. And in the electric, when he goes in his electric era, he was facing judgment and ridicule from his base who loved him. They were booing him off stage night after night, and he had an incredible band. I mean, and I sort of entered into Bob Dylan land through his electric period, so it's just, I couldn't understand how people hated on that, because it's amazing. It's incredible, and it led to an evolution and an expansion of his vision. His internal voice was obviously right to go electric and to escape the confines of just an acoustic guitar. Nothing wrong with an acoustic guitar. I got one right here. I love the old acoustic, but you know, sometimes you want to plug in and play. Anyway, there's a famous incident that happened during that time where a fan yelled to Dylan, he said Judas, called him Judas, like a traitor, basically. He was a traitor. And Bob Dylan instantly snarled back into the microphone, "I don't believe you." And I'm adding this on because this is the key to overcoming judgment. And in that moment, Bob Dylan said, "I don't believe you." That's it. That's it in a nutshell. That helps us overcome judgment entirely. That's all we have to do, is understand that any voices of condemnation and judgment are not to be believed. Judgment is a liar. So, and we can see someone like Dylan, who is this, like, you know, remarkable lifelong artist who pushed his bass in all kinds of different directions all the time. He always went against the grain. He always made unnerving, weird, strange albums that didn't sort of play into the success of the album before. He went through a heavy Christian phase, which obviously disturbed a lot of his fan base that were like folk hippies and stuff like that. But he had this punk rock spirit, and that punk rock spirit is defiance in the face of judgment. The voice saying, I don't believe you. It's huge. That is the key. I don't believe you. That is our mantra when we face judgment, both within and without. I don't believe you. Take it from Bobby D. I mean, people love him. They make movies about him. And he was getting booed off the stage night after night. So there you go. You know, those forces of darkness will try to stop your internal vision. They will. They're going to try to stop you. Is no question about it. And they're strong. They're strong until they're not. They're strong until we observe them and we say to them, I don't believe you. Then they lose all power. Then they're just, they turn from giant monsters like into like annoying flies. The flies are always going to be there. You just don't want them to be big boogeyman monsters, right? They're going to be flies. Judgmental flies are just going to probably always be in the mix, unless you achieve full enlightenment. Thank you. I don't believe you. Remember that. I don't believe you. That's it. That's a little video about overcoming judgment. Tell us what you think in the comments below, if you've made it this far, about how you overcome the forces of fear and judgment and condemnation. And tell us how you do it. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.